Good morning, and welcome to Lesson 1, Part 33. Folks, this video is the final portion of this lesson. The next 7 videos that follow are going to be guided meditations using the technique that you've learned over these 33 videos. And you'll notice that it's basically a 9-minute technique. It takes a little longer when you go through it with me because I give you a little parenthetical instructions. But it takes you 9 minutes, and we'll go through it, one time to deconstruct pain, one time to let go of illness, one time to let go of weakness, one time to let go of anger, one time to let go of sadness, one time to let go of fear. And lastly, just to let go of, sometimes you just can't put a finger on it, either because it's a combination of things or because it's highly tumultuous and it's changing every couple seconds. In that circumstance, I like to use the non-sophisticated term yuck. So the 7th lesson will be, I shouldn't say lesson, the 7th guided meditation will be just a way of applying the 9-minute technique to letting go of yuck. Much to the great disapproval of Basement Cat, who feels that I should be petting him and not teaching. If only I knew my place, according to Basement Cat, how much simpler life would be. Okay, so let's continue. I'm going to start off with what I always tell you. If this is your first time tuning in, this lesson will not make sense unless you are looking at the latest version of the PDF entitled First Set of Lesson Texts. If you don't have that, no problem. There's a link available right below this video. Now, that link's only going to be there if you're watching this on this video's dedicated YouTube page. If you're not there, no problem. Just find the link towards the bottom right-hand corner of the screen that says, link, it's just simple, it says YouTube. Give that thing a click, maybe 2, it'll take you to the YouTube dedicated page. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. The second link below the video will take you to buddhajoy.com. Specifically, it'll take you to the class materials for the first quarter. The second class material that's available is a link for, you guessed it, the first set of lesson texts. It's absolutely free. Go get it. I'll wait right here. Here's the second thing. If this is your first time watching yours truly on YouTube, then do yourself a favor. Don't start at part 33 of the first lesson. Start at part 1 of the first lesson. Set yourself up for at least a modicum of comprehension. Could you do that for me, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. So let's get started. If you have the text in front of you, you should be on page 10. If you need to pause me and turn there, that's quite all right. I promise not to take it personally. Page 10, third exercise. The first exercise said Bodhicitta's essence, or is entitled Bodhicitta's Essence. The second exercise was entitled Concise Manipa's Heart. And the final exercise for this whole Megillah is entitled Personal. Because the first exercise was dealing with our needs in the context of universal needs. The second exercise on this page was dealing with everyone's needs, every living being on every world. And this one's dealing basically with our needs. Remember, these are not prayers. We're not beseeching some old man with sandals in heaven to give us what we want. We're basically saying, hey, I've earned all this good karma. I'm now going to invest my good karma in these virtuous outcomes. Virtuous, that's a funny word. What does that mean? These positive outcomes, these beneficial outcomes, these really cool mondo bitchin' peachy keen outcomes. So, let's continue. First line. May I always be cared for throughout all my lives. So the first phrase, may I always be cared for, that's a reminder of interdependence. We're dependent on causes, we're dependent on things, beings, phenomena, we're dependent on circumstances, we're dependent on our own components. Take out the heart, don't work quite as well. Or even dependent and affected by our own perceptions, our own preconceptions, our own, yes, I said it, beliefs. And we're even affected by the labels we use to organize our perception of reality. We are affected by a plethora of things. This is not dogma to be believed. This is simply consistently observable phenomena, noticed by the spiritual, by the philosophical, by the pragmatic, and by the scientific. Things affect things. May I always be cared for. So this infers that since we're subject to interdependence anyway, let's have the most positive experience of interdependence. May I always be cared for throughout all my lives. Now, from a strict, fundamentalist, literalist, Buddhist point of view, that would infer that, hey, I'm in one life right now. After I die, there comes another life. I've had lives before me and lives after me. Woo, all these lives. You can't tell one life from another without a program. Now, that's the literalist point of view. From a liberal point of view, from a non-fundamentalist point of view, we could say, yes, we may have previous lives, we may not. We may have future lives, we may not. If we do have future lives, that could be useful. If we don't, let's make the most of this one. So you notice the liberal view is much more flexible. It's not rigid. It's not drawing a line in the sand and say, this is the line of death. You cross it at your own peril. But I give you no assurances against silliness. I'm sorry, silliness is the price you pay to learn from me. Okay, so may I always be cared for throughout all my lives by the Buddha of compassion emanating as my kind teacher. Let's go back to that first line. May I always be cared for throughout all my lives. So literally, that might refer to my next life. But metaphorically, figuratively, it could refer to my next circumstance. It could be a chronographic reference. My next minute, my next hour, my next day, my next week, my next month, my next quarter, my next year, my next decade, my next century, if I'm so fortunate. It may refer to my next, it might refer to a circumstance. The next circumstance I'm in may be cared for, may my needs be met in the most wonderful way. Let's continue. By the Buddha of compassion emanating as my kind teacher. So if we were Buddhist fundamentalists, we would believe rigidly that, hey, I'm going to have a next life, and the next life, my teacher could look like flesh, blood, and bone, but he could actually be the Buddha of compassion in disguise. Now, a liberal, as a Buddhist liberal, I might say, well, that could be very nice. That might happen. That might not happen. Wouldn't it be cool if whatever life I was in, whatever circumstance I was in, I always had access to people who could help me on the path, who are wiser and more loving or more empowered than myself. People who are so empowered that it was as if they were Chenrezig himself. Notice me using a simile, not a literal statement. That's a big, big difference. So, let's continue. And as such, may I always enthusiastically and joyfully tread this excellent path, praised by the conquerors. So what's a conqueror? Is it Conan the Barbarian? Who can forget that wonderful line in the first Conan movie? Conan, what is the meaning of life? To crush the enemy, to see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women What a horrible imitation. How dare you laugh at this? This does not deserve laughter. This deserves, I don't know, nausea. Waves of nausea. But anyway, in this context, in a Mahayana Buddhist context, when they talk about conquerors, they don't mean Conan the Barbarian wearing fur and horns. What they refer to is someone who's conquered the tyranny of their own afflictions. Their own afflictions, they may still suffer, but the sufferings are no longer the boss of them. Who can forget Malcolm in the Middle and a wonderful song by They May Be Giants called You're Not the Boss of Me Now? That's the basic thing. So a conqueror is just a way of describing a man or woman who's developed a type of spiritual mastery that allows them to be free from the tyranny of adversity. Adversity may still be there, but it's not the boss of them. So this excellent path praised by the conquerors, what that's assuming is that you're being taught a method that's potent, that works, that when you apply it to pain or illness or weakness or anger or fear or sadness or general yuckiness, it helps to dampen them. It helps to free you from their tyranny. That's an excellent path. What's an excellent path? One that works. One that helps you to become the happy camper that you were born to be. One that helps you to become the person that your dog already thinks you are. Let's go back to the third line. And such may I always and enthusiastically tread this excellent path. How do we want? We want to be blessed. We want to create the karmic causes so that we always traverse this path enthusiastically, but joyfully. Once again, that wonderful phrase, we do not wish to be. What's that phrase? Oh yeah, we don't wish to be pious assholes. We don't want to be, the Buddhist version of the church lady. We don't want to walk around condemning people and wagging our finger at people and being, generally unpleasant. We want to be enthusiastic about what we're doing. We want to be joyful about what we're doing. We want to be productive with what we're doing. And so what we're doing is we're taking our good karma and aiming it at this outcome. We're investing our positive energy in this outcome. It has been said by the ancients that magic had three primary components: subtle thought, or dimak in Sanskrit, subtle matter, or akasha in Sanskrit, and subtle energy, or prana in Sanskrit. So we need matter, which is obviously the world we live in and our own bodies of flesh, blood, and bone. We need thought. Well, these three exercises are certainly guiding our intention, aren't they? And by the way, folks, the easiest way to guide your intention is with words. But we need energy. And so all the spiritual practice we did, the cunning use of contemplative, rhetorical, assumptive, well-worded questions that were also, you guessed it, mantra empowered, has created all this energy, all this positive energy. And now we're using these words and these bodies to make magic. Now, do I expect you to believe this? Hell no. But could this be an empowering possibility to play with? Play with and simply notice your results? Yeah, sure, you betcha. So now I'm going to simply recite this four-line quatrain for you in the question and answer format. May I always be cared for throughout all my lives by the Buddha of compassion emanating as my kind teacher, and as such may I always enthusiastically and joyfully tread this excellent path praised by the conquerors. I remember many years ago in this life when I was a Buddhist fundamentalist and I was receiving traditional Gelug teachings at one point, tantric, as from a tantric sect, a very conservative tantric sect in Tibet, and I would recite a prayer very similar to this, and I feel like I was missing out because I didn't feel like the path I was on wasn't excellent. I thought it was pretty cool, pretty neat, fun ideas, but I wasn't getting excellent results. And so my peers and my teachers just said, oh yeah, just trust it. Just have faith. Faith, my friends, is a trap. The test of the teachings is not how old they are, how popular they are, how many prestigious people like them. The only test of anything is how well it works. I'm so grateful I finally received teachings that did work all the time for everyone. So I look forward to working with you at the next video where we review this 9-minute technique and basically in a guided meditation format specifically to deal with physical pain. If you don't have any physical pain, then in the next video we'll probably deal with anger, and who makes it through a day without some anger? No less annoyance. I look forward to working with you then. May I thank you for your time and your kind attention. May you and yours be healthy and happy. Om Mani Padme Hum. Now before I let you go, I want to draw your attention to the subscribe button that should be right around here. Give that bad boy a click. Once you do, scribble your cursor over that button and 3 little boxes should appear. The bottom box, if you click that, and I hope you do, will ensure that all my future videos will wind up in your inbox, which is very useful because if you rely on, oh gosh, Google Plus or Facebook or Twitter to keep track of me, that's something very similar to a needle in a haystack. So the checking of the box, much more efficient. And of course, the first video right below, I'm sorry, I say video? Let's try that again. The first link right below this video will take you to the registration page so you can participate in the next series of weekly webinars. When do they begin? Friday, November 2nd. I'll see you there.